Welcome to Dear Social Worker, Let's Talk podcast, the podcast that prioritizes you, the person behind the title social worker. You already know me, but I'm going to introduce myself again. I'm the host, Lisa Ann Edwards, and I'm here to encourage and inspire your personal development, promote your well-being and leadership development. I transitioned from over a decade in children's social work to founder of the socialworkcoachinghub.com, where I offer trauma-informed coaching, leadership development coaching, books, and events for social workers. Today's podcast is for all social workers, even if you're just thinking about entering the social work field. And this is episode 15, and it's untitled, because we are having a very, very special guest today. I've never done this before, so this is going to be exciting for all of you today who are going to be listening, because we have the outspoken, the talented, the hat-wearing, true brother of mine who we've met many years ago, in contact, and as you'll see, I'll be wearing my hat to represent you today. We have the resilience coach, Jamie.
Well, what an introduction. There's no pressure to live up to it or anything. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
It's great to have you here, Jamie, and thank you for taking time out to speak with all of us today, with our social work community. I reached out to Jamie and said, I need you, Jamie, because our social workers out here, we are really up against it. You know, we're up against it for mental health. We're up against it in terms of how we're managing our well-being. We're up against it in terms of our mindset. And there's so many social workers reaching out to me saying, you know, your podcast has really helped me. It's given me an outlet for my anxiety. It's really helped me think about this or think about that. So I was like, you know something, what we need to do is have somebody on here who is known as a motivational speaker to encourage and inspire you. Welcome to the Dear Social Worker podcast.
There we go. Well, I go around the country and I speak in many, many different settings, environments, and to many different organisations. One day I can be speaking to primary school children, comprehensive school children. The very next day I can be speaking to murderers, rapists, category A sex offenders in a prison. So I go into schools, colleges, universities, youth offender institutes, prisons. I will go into the corporate world. I'll go into the sports, professional sports field. And what I realise is I'm dealing with human beings. But there's a common thread that runs along a lot of them. Now, when I'm looking in schools, I'm seeing the teachers really, really suffer. In this particular field, I'm seeing social workers that are truly, truly suffering. When I speak to the police, when I speak to paramedics, you see it in many, many different demographics. So there is this element of suffering. There's a pressure that's weighing down on us that I would say we've never experienced before, because there's things that are happening that we've never experienced before. It's like when I speak to the youngsters in like schools and colleges and universities, I say, listen, I wouldn't want to be a teenager in today's day and age for love nor money, because back in the day, I had the problems. Like we had the problems back in the day, but we had this resilience and it was kind of like an even fight. Nowadays, we've got this heightened pressure that's on us, everything that's on us, everything to do with self-image, paranoia, the stuff that messes with our well-being, social media, technology stuff, everything that messes with our emotional, psychological and mental well-being has gone up. But what I'm seeing is this natural old school dogged resilience that our nans and our granddads, our mums and dads have all of a sudden dropped. So there's the problem. So I can't do anything about today's day and age, like what's in society and what we're dealing with. But that's why I help people like bring up their resilience. And what's my background? My background is I first got into speaking because back in 2012, my 19-year-old nephew was murdered by a 14-year-old boy. And I decided to use my talent, my words, to go out there and use my words to help people. Now, I was getting feedback back from the people that I was speaking to about how it was helping with their emotional and mental well-being. So the emotional and mental well-being element took on extra significance for me when back in 2020, during the first big lockdowns, the youngest of my two older sisters took her own life during lockdown. So I know what this thing is now. And this is what I need to bring to people. I need to bring to people the element of, listen, this is no joke. This is no joke in what we're dealing with, right? There is a thing out there, our emotional, psychological, and mental well-being. Like, there are tests and challenges that are being brought to us that wants to take us out of the game and really, really take us down. It's like fighting a massive opponent in the boxing ring, and it wants to take our head off. So we have to have this authentic way of thinking of, right, what is it I'm up against? I need to put it into context. I need to know who my opponent is, but I need to know that I am literally in the fight and I can fight back against it. That's why you have to activate your dog, right? You have to activate the dog inside you. Now, everybody loves a loyal Labrador. Everybody loves a little cute Chihuahua. Everybody loves the big fluffy chows. But what you have to do is you have to activate the Malinois that's inside you. Now, this thing is inside you. Why? Because we come from a bloodline of Malinois, right? We have generations that have gone through many, many difficult things. It's like we may find ourselves sometimes in a trench, like we're in the trenches. Like, I've literally heard that terminology used so much, but we have to remember that there are family members that literally back in the day, like in the 1930s and the 40s, that were literally in the trenches. Now, the trenches, it's not a glitzy and glamorous environment in which to be in, but that place gives us an opportunity. It's an opportunity to win battles, to win wars, and it was the place where heroes were made. So if you find yourself in a particular trench, that you have to know that it's an opportunity to win a battle, to win a war, and to literally become a hero. So by activating this dog, activating this Malinois. Now, I don't know whether you've ever seen this dog or videos of this dog. There's videos on YouTube, there's videos on the internet of a guy, and he's bent over, stood in front of a 20-foot wall, and this dog jumps on his back and scales the wall. This thing is like a missile on 4 legs. It will literally fly across lakes, fly across rivers. It's so strong. It's not the biggest of dogs, but it will take down a 17-stone man like he's a rag doll. So this is what you have to activate, because this problem that's coming to you, like this anxiety, this worry, this stress, like when it's crumpling your chest, when it's literally grabbing your throat, when you're literally gasping for air, when you think that there's no hope, when you think that everything around you is dark and it's not going to get any better, you need to know that you need to fight back against this thing. You can't go into it half-hearted. You can't go for it. Now, there's this video that's on YouTube that I use as like an analogy to this. Now, it's a group of these hunters in America, and they've got these pack of dogs, and they've got this massive wild boar backed up against the riverbed, right, backed up against the riverbank, and it's in shallow water, and these 3 dogs are surrounding this wild boar, and they're barking a lot, they're making a lot of noise, they're kind of just nipping at the boar's feet, it's nipping at its ears, it's nipping at its side, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And the hunters get a little bit frustrated with this, and what they do is they let the pit bull go, and the pit bull goes like laser guided focus, bang, in one direction like an arrow, and it goes bang straight round the boar's throat. It takes it down within 15 seconds and it gets the job done. Why do I use this? I use this because there is something that's in front of you that needs to be taken down, or it will take you out. It will literally knock you out and take you down, take you out of the game. So you need to go at it like a laser guided focus. Don't run away from the problem. Know that it's there. Know that this opponent has turned up. Respect it, but do not fear it, because a lot of people go into that state of fear. False evidence appearing real. And they're fearful of this thing. You have to respect it, absolutely, because it's turned up. It's turned up for a ding dong. It's turned up for a fight. But you need to run towards it, and you need to grab it by the throat, and you need to take it down quickly. You need to take it out of the game. So yeah, these problems and these stresses, I know that people are up against them, but a lot of people won't fight back. They want to stay in the Labrador mode. They want to stay in the Chihuahua mode or the Chow mode. But you need to activate this Malinois, because you need to understand, remember where you come from, a bloodline of Malinois that have been through problems, and you've got it inside you. You just need to activate it.
On that note, Jamie, the fire started already. I hadn't even asked a question really yet. I said, introduce yourself. This is why I've got Jamie here, because there's moments in time as us as social workers, we know, and if you've been listening to me, you know I've got over 10 years working with local authorities. We need this kind of motivation. We need this kind of inspiration. And I know that Jamie is the man for the job. I want to pick a few things out of what you said there. I'm just going to mention one name and one thing that this person mentions. Dr. Eric Thomas. Wow. Now, Jamie and I, we've bonded over several things, but the one thing we talk about is Dr. Eric Thomas. If you haven't heard and you don't know, you need to get to know. He trained me directly to be one of his, what they call extreme execution coaches. And I was the first in the UK to be trained by him. But the point I'm making here is around the word execution, because that was the word that came out when you were speaking there, because for social workers, and getting a little bit into detail into some of the things we face, there's always something to do, right? There's always case notes to write up. There's always a call that needs to be made. There's always an email to respond to. And that creates a lot of stress and overwhelm to an extent. Of course, naturally, that's understandable. But something that you mentioned there around fear and false evidence appearing real, fear. There's something about fear being a undercurrent in the social work field for various reasons. It could be that you've come up against a particular professional or a parent, or you've received threats. It could be anything, right? But what I want to focus on today is about the mindset shift. The mindset shift. And those are conversations you and I have all the time, Jamie, about mindset. Exactly. Let's think about how we can encourage the social workers through mindset shifts. And what have you seen through your resilience coaching around people that are in a state of fear, a place of lack, needing to move and shift their mindset, as you say, to get that dog to execute, as Dr. Eric Thomas would say?
Well, I kind of bring within the sporting field, you will hear a bit of terminology or a phrase used a lot, but also in like the corporate world to do with performance, that you need to bring your A game, right? You need to bring your A game. But I talk to people about bringing their R game, right? And their R game really does help them, right, with this mindset shift. And it stands for different things. So the R is the reason. The reason. You have to remember the reason why you are doing this. What you are doing this for. Because I'm very passionate about protecting the young ones, protecting their minds, protecting their hearts, protecting their emotions, their well-being. Because I'm in a position where I'm a grown adult, and I like to protect the younger ones, the weaker ones, the littler ones. It's always been inside me. So that there is a reason. You have to remember the reason why you're doing this, why you have to make that extra call, why you have to fill in that form, why you chose this job in the first place, why. And the reason is the protection of the little one, protection of the younger ones, protection of the vulnerable, protection of the weak. You literally chose this profession back in the day for a reason. Don't forget that reason. It's why people like when you look at relationships and you look at marriages kind of breaking up. Now, I've been through this twice. I've been through 2 divorces, so I can speak from personal experience. But people lose the sight of why they fell in love at in the first place, and why you love that person so much and all their good qualities. Like, you're just focusing on the here and now, and you're forgetting to remember. So remember your reason. And no matter how hard things get for me, and I have to get up and I have to perform, I have to go and do 5 one-hour talks in a day. And literally, I will say to people, listen, the last 5 minutes of the 5th talk will still have the same amount of energy, the same amount of passion and fire as the first 5 minutes of the first talk. I cannot let it slip, no matter what I'm going through, no matter what heartbreak I've got, no matter what grief is going through me, no matter how many miles I've traveled. All that stuff is your form. All that stuff that I've got is that phone call you've got to make. Listen, you're putting forward a reason as to why you feel down and exhausted, but it is no excuse. If your mind still works, your arms work, your heart's still pumping, listen, you've still got air in your lungs, you can get that thing done. And the reason why I still perform is my reasons are strong. My children, I've got to show them by my actions that they can do exactly the same. Because this may sound silly coming from a professional public speaker, but talk is cheap. You have to back it up with your action. Than your words. So remember your reason. The person that has a strong enough reason will overcome any problem.
Perfectly said, Jamie. Perfectly said. I'm going to throw something in here that you'll resonate with. Excuse me. You'll resonate with for several reasons. The reason some social workers come into social, certainly with the social workers that I coach, particularly, there is an inner child that they're protecting. And that's why they've ended up in the social work role. And whilst they're out there protecting others, there's another element where, in essence, they are reparenting or parenting their inner child. And I know you've had experience of that, and that's how you had your title, The Grief Preacher, in the early days of you speaking, and I know you still do that. What's your take on people that have perhaps lost their reason, because the reason actually is about them finding a space of healing through the work?
Yeah, I mean, although they may have forgot their reason, it still doesn't give the excuse not to find it. It may take a little bit of work, right? And I use this analogy that if there was like if there was a jewelry store, nobody in it, but literally, right, it's all kitted out, it's still got all the products in it, but no one was inside it, and there was a big massive wrecking ball, like a big crane next to it, and that building was going to be demolished, and it literally swung the ball and it smashed it, and it leveled the building, and it's totally destroyed. Now, no one was in it, no one was hurt, but if that pile of rubble was there, would you go searching through the rubble, all the debris, to find the diamonds that are in there? Of course you would. You might have to hurt yourself, cut yourself. You may get injured lifting up all the bricks, lifting up all the debris, lifting up all the carnage. But you'll find that diamond that's worth 50 grand. You'll find them diamonds that are valuable and worth so much money. So you will go through. And sometimes in life, if you forgot the reason, you have to dig. You have to dig deep. You have to dig through the debris in order to find the diamond. And that diamond, the reason, is priceless. The reason is priceless. So
how do they dig? How do they dig through the debris? Because I know there'll be some social workers thinking, you've got no idea. I've got 200 unanswered emails here. How do I dig?
Well, they literally look within themselves and they ask themselves the questions. What's important to you? Why? Listen, they know why they started this job in the first place. Did they think that they were going to come into this job and they were only going to answer 5 emails a day? Did they think they were only going to take 10 emails a day? And I don't want this to sound harsh, but a lot of people, you know what you're getting into. You know this kind of environment. You know that it's like people that want to defend a country. They want to battle and they want to defend a country, but then going into that environment and saying, "Oh, there's bullets flying. I didn't want that. I didn't want that." So you have to literally listen. They're simple questions. Ask yourself why you started this back in the day. How did it make you feel? Why did you want it so much? What's important to you in life? Because we're not talking to zombies here. Like, we're not talking to people that haven't got a life experiences, passion, things that they love, things that they care about, or people that they care about. That there is the content of the answers that you're got. That there is the answers. That's the content you need. So simple question. Why did I start this? Who's important to me? What's important to me? What's my passion? Who is relying on me? Because I say that I've got to go out there and I've got to do these talks and I've got to turn up because there are people in the future that are relying on me. I've never...
Pause. You got to pause there. There's people in the future that are relying on you. Elaborate.
There's some little kids in a primary school somewhere that have never heard of Jamie Dean, never heard of the Grief Preacher, that have never heard of this man. And they are going through the trenches. But I'm going to be going to their school in the future. And I'm going to go and I'm going to change the game. Why? Because what drives me, what drives me is the G of the game that I have to give. You have to give of yourself, no matter if you don't feel like giving. And I can remember about 10 months after my nephew was killed, that there was a talk that I was going to do, and it was coming up, it was booked in, but I wasn't feeling it this day because I was still going through the darkness. I was still in the pit. I was still suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, all this stuff. And I was suffering from hardship, but I turned up. I went and done this talk, right? I'd done 3 1-hour talks on this particular day for 14-year-olds that were going to do their exams. And I got the feedback back from this one particular student that it was the first of its kind. I have got many, many more since just like it, but it blew the roof off of me. It blew my mind, because at the end of his email, he said, "Thank you for everything you said today. You've not only changed my life, but you saved it, because tonight I was planning on taking my own life and you stopped me today." So can you imagine if I didn't turn up just because I was exhausted and because I was going through the darkness and because I didn't feel like I had to give of myself at that time, and I didn't know that that boy was relying on me. So there is this element that you have to understand that you're in a position of a real blessing. A blessing. It is hard. No blessing comes without its hardship. No positive comes without its negative. If you yin yang sign, the black and the white, and on each side you've also got a little dot of the corresponding color. In any negative, look for the positive. Yeah, that's amazing. That's the good way of looking at things. But what you have to understand is in any positive, there is an element of negative, an element of struggle. Nothing is 100% positive. So in this job where you are protecting the weak, where you're protecting the vulnerable, where you're looking after their well-being, where you're going to be pulling the little ones out the trenches. Yes, that's an unbelievable blessing. You're like a superhero. You might not wear a cape, you might not wear a mask, and you most certainly might not wear your underwear outside your tights, but that doesn't mean to say that you are not a superhero. You will bring them out of the darkness and into the light. So you have to know that it's a responsibility. Yes, you've got a great responsibility. It's a great privilege. It's a great blessing, but it does come with its weight. But you will never, ever, ever get stronger without lifting a weight. And by doing that, you will become stronger in your character, in your resilience, you as a person. You are learning on the job to become a better version of yourself. And that is an amazing example to show the people that you love, adore and care about. Remember, you've got little eyes looking up at you. You've got people in your family that are looking up at you. You've got kids. You may have grandkids. You may have nieces. You may have nephews. You may have little cousins. There are strangers that are looking up at you. And that's what really kind of motivates me and keeps me going, is I know that there are it's easy to do it for your kids. It's easy. That's the easy thing. But I know that there are strangers, little kids, little strangers, and adults that are relying on me that don't know me yet, but I will come to meet them in the future.
Thank you, Jamie. I know our time is running out, and you're probably thinking, oh no, the time is running out, and you're enjoying this episode, but I'm going to throw in a bit of a red herring here.
Go.
Because social workers, even everything you're saying is true, but there are social workers out there. I definitely was one of them, where I would, I would give too much, right? There's a phrase out there at the moment, an article saying, is there too much goodwill in social work? Now, some of that goodwill is about professional integrity. Some of that goodwill is not having boundaries. The other side of that is, this is my job. This is the expectation of me to do X, Y, and Z. What do you say to the social workers who are struggling to say no to certain things, covering for staff when they know they haven't got the capacity, overgiving, too much goodwill? What are we saying to social workers that are in that mindset of doing that and feeling they have to overwork?
Well, that's where, again, you've got to look to yourself, and within yourself, look after yourself and stay in your own lane. Yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup. Absolutely. And I don't think there's any such thing as too much goodwill. Going out there and doing good is what life is all about and what it should be, but not at a detriment to yourself. And you said the word there, which is the key, that you have to implement and learn, and then apply boundaries, you have to learn the power of the word no. You have to learn the power of the word no. No to other people, because what you will find is other people will take advantage of you because of who you are, your goodwill, your good nature, and people will. And that is something to do with human nature. Is they will always stretch boundaries. They will always take it that little step further. Oh, I got away with this time. Let's see if I can push it a little bit more. Oh, because Janet or Jeff, they will stand for it and they will say yes. So you have to learn. I've given you the reason as to where the problem is. So it's up to you. There's no excuse now not to kind of implement it or learn about it. If someone is taking advantage of you, learn the power of the word no. Like literally the first time, it might be goodwill. If people are taking advantage of you, right? The first time, it may be an accident. It may just be you and your giving nature. But the second time, third time, the fourth time, that's a choice.
That's a choice. There's something I want to add there, Jamie. There are different ways to say no. I have this conversation in my coaching sessions all the time. And if you're one of my coaches, you'll be laughing right now, because that's something I say, if you just Google, there are 10 ways to say no, or 20 ways to say no. There are other ways. You don't have to use the word no. You could say, that's not a good time for me right now. You can say, have another commitment at that time. So there is language that you can use if there is a fear around saying no. And I guess it would be remiss of me, I know we've only got a few minutes left, to not mention the phrase people pleasing. I know you have a view on that, Jamie. If you can just give like 30 seconds of support and encouragement around people. Yeah,
and listen, people pleasing, that is a fault, and that shows you that you need to work on something. That you so where people pleasing coming from? Is it because you're low on confidence, you're low on self-esteem, you want people to like you? Listen, the only person that needs to like you is the one that looks back at you in the mirror. Go and literally work on that first and foremost.
Yes.
And want to please people by being yourself. Listen, be yourself, like implement the boundaries, just listen, be yourself. And if you don't want to do something, don't do it. And if people don't like you because of it, guess what? That's a favor. That's a favor to you, because you've literally identified someone that would literally get their claws into you, literally attach to you like a leech and drag you down. They will literally drag you down and not let you flourish and blossom. So look within yourself. Right, there's so many answers within yourself. Like I said, to ask yourself all them questions as to what drives you and what your reason is. Ask yourself again. Listen, why am I pleasing that person? Why am I sort of emptying my own cup for this person? Is it because, listen, my confidence isn't the highest. My own value and my own worth and how I think about people, how I think about myself, is it not very high? Well, that's something that you have to work on. There's no good building a house if your foundation isn't strong. So go back to the basics and start working on your foundation of your self-esteem, your confidence, your value, your worth, and your importance to this role, and who's relying on you. And then all of a sudden you stand in your power and you realize, yeah, I don't need to please that person, because the person that I am pleasing is looking back at me in the mirror, and there's loads and loads and loads of vulnerable little human beings that are looking up at me, liking me, and that is good for me, because what you think about me is none of my business. The person that wants to drag you down and take advantage of you, do yourself a favor and get rid of that kind of dead wood.
Oh, amen. That's all I've got to say to that is amen. We are now approaching the end of the podcast, but don't switch off yet, because Jamie's not finished, because he's going to just give a final word. And we call this section of the podcast Dear Social Worker. And the idea of that is it's as if you are writing a letter. So you're going to be writing a letter to social workers from you, Jamie, whenever you're ready.
Okay, dear social worker, in this blessed and privileged position that you're in, although it is hard, although it is pressurized, just know how important you are. You have to know all the good things you make happen by you being you and by you doing what it is that you're doing. You have to remember the bad stuff that you are stopping from happening by you being you and doing what you're doing. Your importance and your value is higher than you could realize, imagine, or what you could acknowledge. Just know how incredible and phenomenal you are. You have literally got through, overcome and conquered 100% of your worst and most challenging days, and you are still here. So what I want you to do is to carry on that statistic. Keep the 100% going. You are a part of the 100% club, and when you're in, you do not leave. You can't go AWOL. You can't just unsubscribe and then leave. Keep on going. That statistic is so important, because by you being you, you are literally creating a world of wonder for people and giving them the dream and giving them the opportunity for them to flourish and to blossom. And if you do not believe me, the only thing you have to do is sit down and watch a film called It's a Wonderful Life about George W. Bailey, and how his importance is just by doing the simple and the basic things and the amazing things he makes happen and the terrible, horrible things he stops from happening just by being him. You are incredible. Stay with us. Keep doing what you're doing and keep this work up, because so many people are relying on you. Well done, you superhero. God bless. All my love. Sincerely, kindest regards, Jamie Denyer.
Jamie, thank you. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your words of wisdom with us. Where can people find you?
Well, I do a lot of work on Instagram, social media. So Instagram is at Grief Preacher, or one word, at Grief Preacher. It's Jamie Denyer on Facebook. It's at Grief Preacher on Twitter as well. But yeah, I love Instagram. People, my website is www.jamiedenyer.com. You can go on there. You can look at the work in which I do, get a bit more of a flavor of what I do. There's a contact section as well. You can reach out to me if you're interested in working with me. Listen, I would love to work with you, because I know that any organization, be it a school, be it social work, be it nurses, be it police, that organization is only as good as its employees, and it would be a pleasure and a blessing to work with people such as yourselves. So if you want to do that, contact me, or if you just want to reach out to me, ask me anything, messages, whatever, I will always reply, and I am there for you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Thank you for listening to the Dear Social Worker Let's Talk podcast. Don't worry, Jamie will be back. Jamie and I are friends. He will be back, so don't worry. But listen, every Monday, 7 a.m. UK time is the release date. So we will see you next time on the next episode of Dear Social Worker podcast. Thank you very much.